Hello, my sweet little noodles. My name is Brittany and welcome back to my channel. And today we'll be reading some paranormal romance. I've realized over the past couple of years that paranormal romance is actually one of my favorite genres, and it probably started with Twilight when I was a teenager. Who would have thought? But I've realized now as an adult that it's just so much fun to read about monsters or people that are not human but humanoid, like vampires or angels or whatever it is. Like, it's just a really fun thing to read about, especially in terms of romance, because it's usually two different kinds of species coming together. Not only are they fun and smutty, but they're usually a little bit dangerous. I'll be reading 3 books for this spooky reading vlog, and one of them is a reread. The book I'm going to reread is Mating the Huntress by Talia Hibbert. Now, I originally read this book back in 2021, and still we do not have a sequel for this novel, even though it is intended, it looks like on Goodreads, that this is the first in a series. But this is a short little novella about romance between a werewolf and a werewolf hunter. And it's very fun, very smutty, and it's a really fun short novella. So like, it's just a kind of easy read during the spooky season that gives off spooky season vibes, but isn't like a trudge to get through. This is also like true enemies to lovers, in my opinion. And I also love that he's an alpha, but not an alpha hole. And if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. But I'm gonna go ahead and reread this because I just really want to reread it. I'll also be reading Not Your Crush's Cauldron, which I actually have on art. This book is the 3rd in the Supernatural single series, which actually follows a group of sisters. So we have 3 sisters and we have 3 books, and this is the 3rd book in the series. Now, I ended up reading the 2nd novel earlier this year, Not Your Ex's Hexes, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. And this is the 3rd follow-up installment, Not Your Crush's Cauldron. So this is about the 3rd sister, Olive, and her love interest, Bax, who is a guardian angel. And in this novel, they end up moving in together, and I think that he technically has her on assignment for some reason, and you're not supposed to fall in love with like your assignments as a guardian angel. So this sounds like a really fun, forbidden romance, and it was definitely alluded to in the 2nd novel, so I'm really excited to see this play out. But I will let you know that it is not available for publication until February of next year, so February 2024. So if you do end up thinking you want to read this novel in the future, I would just go ahead and add it to your TBR or try to access it on NetGalley. I'm not sure if it's still available, but you're not gonna be able to get to that till next year. And the 3rd book I'll be reading is The Dead Romantics. And I actually thought this was a YA book. Don't ask me why, I really don't know. I don't know if it just gives off like YA vibes or something, because technically this looks more like an Emily Henry vibe. But for some reason I thought this was young adult. It is not. She is a 28-year-old woman who's actually a ghostwriter who in this book falls in love with a ghost. I'm really excited for this one because I actually always had the idea as a little kid to write a book about a ghost and a human being falling in love, because how sad and romantic is that? Because they could never like be together, especially like if you can't touch the ghost or whatever. Like, I just really wonder what the rules are for this, because every single person likes to do it differently. Like, some ghosts are corporeal and some are not. So I'm really interested if he can like touch her, if they can actually truly have like a sensual romance, or if this is all just like intellectual. I'm really curious to see how this is going to work out. But I just picked this up from the library today, and I did not realize this is a floppy paperback baby. So I might have to read this first. But also because this is really popular right now, and I have it on audio and an ebook version. So I just feel like I kind of need to like finish this one first, because it's the one that's like the most wanted at the moment. And especially after I got this copy, I'm like, do I really want to listen to the audiobook? Even though I'm really liking the audiobook, I'm only like a chapter in. I think it's nice. I love a good floppy paperback. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I think I'm gonna start with this one first. I don't know, don't quote me. I might go with Mating the Huntress just because it's a really quick, fun, fast read that I know I gave 5 stars and I'm gonna love. Because this book, so far, from when I listened to it, sounds a little bit like Emily Henry, who I actually don't really like at all. I think the highest I ever gave one of her books was a 3-star, and that was a very generous 3-star that was rounded up. So I'm not really sure if this is gonna be for me, but I just love the idea of it so much that I just had to put it in this reading blog. So I'll get back to you guys when I decide what I'm gonna read. But for now, I'm just gonna admire this beautiful glass cover, even if I don't end up reading it. So I ended up going with The Dead Romantics, and I ended up finishing 110 pages of this book in one day, which was just like kind of a surprise. But when I read on Sunday, I just kind of could not put the book down, which is a good thing. It is also in a perfect floppy paperback form, and I think that's just like the easiest kind of book to read, you know what I mean? Like, it was just so easy to turn the page, and she also doesn't have very long chapters in here, okay? So far this book is slapping. And our main character, Florence, is just, she's going through it, okay? This book definitely has beach read vibes, which is very funny because at the end of this novel, there's like a comfort read section, and the author lists beach read as one of those comfort reads for her, and it shows. So our main character, Florence, she is a ghostwriter for a very famous author named Ann Nichols, who asked her to ghostwrite for her like 5 years ago, and now she's to turn in like her newest like release, and she doesn't have a book ready because she got broken up with a year ago from an asshole, and now she thinks romance is dead. So she goes in to meet the new editor, who happens to be Benji, and Benji is just like smoking hot, man. He is smoking hot, and he believes in love, and he is not extending her deadline. And then she goes home that night. She's very upset. She goes out to the bar. She sees Benji, by the way, has a nice little kiss with Benji, and then she gets a phone call that her father has passed. Now, this is really where like the sad element of this story comes into play, because I mean, not only do we get to experience like the previous breakup with her piece of shit old boyfriend, who basically stole her life story, made a fucking book out of it, okay? She told him she can see ghosts, and then she plays it off as like she's pretending to be a character and making up stories in her mind, and he was like, well, since you're never gonna write the story, I'm just gonna write the story. But lo and behold, it's her real life. She really can see ghosts, and that comes in handy because her father's day job was running a funeral home. And so she goes back home to South Carolina for her father's funeral, and she's met with all these tasks that she has to do. So her father basically leaves a list of like all the things he wants them to do for his funeral, and he was a very eccentric, kooky, fun character who ran a funeral home and really respected the dead, and they're very revered in this small town for being like the undertakers of the town's inhabitants, and it's like an honor to be buried by a day. It's just a really cute, funny premise so far, and I'm really loving like the macabre elements. Like, I really like how dark this is, and the romance is taking a backseat because we know she's gonna fall in love with a ghost. That's all I know. And that ghost happens to be the editor, Benji, who for some reason shows up at her door in South Carolina at the funeral home. And she doesn't know why he's here, because usually a ghost shows themselves to her whenever they need her help to pass on, but she doesn't know why he's here. He feels like he's here for her to finish the book. And she's like, that's never gonna happen, bro. So you might as well just pass on. So far, this book is really slapping. It's really putting me in my feels. Like, I'm really sad for her. Like, losing her father is just so upsetting. Not only because it's just an upsetting premise, but like hearing her describe her father to us and what a character he was and how much love he had for his job and the people of this town. Like, it's really hitting. Like, this is the best way I've seen a small town done in like a really long time. Like, it's really feeling like that small town romance that like you want. And I just don't really know how it's gonna work out with Benji. I'm really kind of curious because he isn't corporeal. Like, she can't touch him. Like, she can like see him, and like ghosts like look, they basically look like regular humans, but like if you really look closely, they look like a little bit different. So I'm curious how like the romance is gonna like unfold, because I mean, obviously you can have an intellectual romance, but like you can't ever like physically do anything. And like, did you have to choose right now to come out? Did you have to choose right now as I'm filming to blind me? Anyway, so I'm gonna finish this book and then get back to you guys, and hopefully that will be pretty soon. But work has been like incredibly busy, so I haven't really been reading at night. So the only time I've really been reading is on Sunday mornings. And that's how far I got with this book. And honestly, it's slapping. I'm really enjoying it. It's very sweet. I think I started off on the right note for this reading vlog as well, because I had to return this book first. So I might as well like just start with it. And also like, I'm just loving the paperback format, even though obviously I don't have it with me here. I really don't feel like getting it from like 5 feet away. But also I just want to show you my ghost earrings, because they're literally the cutest things ever. But like, you cannot tell they're ghosts from like this far away, which is like definitely a disappointment, because when I bought them from Amazon, I thought they were like a little bit bigger. But I'm really obsessed with Huggy earrings, if you haven't noticed, like over the last, I feel like year or so, because I just kind of like experienced them for the first time, and I realized how much I actually enjoy wearing them. Because like the ones that like the normal ones that like go and like hit the back of like your neck, I just realized that like I think my ears are like a little bit too close to my head for that. So like they constantly scratch and irritate behind my ears, and then I want to take them off like immediately. It's so annoying. But like these ones that like Huggy, like they are not touching anything in the back, I can wear them for like all day and I don't care. Like, I don't feel like I'm wearing anything. I don't care. And I keep them on. You didn't need that explanation and nobody cares. But I just want you guys know that I'm really excited about my little ghost earrings because they're literally the cutest fucking things. They're like the only new Halloween earring I bought. And like, honestly, I've barely been wearing any other earrings, even though I have so many over there. Like, I have so many in my jewelry organizer, but I just don't feel like wearing them anymore because I'm so tired of like the backs poking me that like I really need to like hire somebody to like turn every pair of earrings I have into like a huggy version, because then I'll finally fucking wear them again. Because right now I'm just really enjoying not having like irritated, you know, neck. So anyway, I'll get back to you guys when I finish this, which should hopefully be quite shortly. And then I'll move on to Meg the Huntress, which I think I'm gonna read next because that's a novella and it's pretty short. And I'm really down for like a werewolf time. Like, I'm really feeling the werewolves. I don't know what it is, but like, it's just, 'tis the season. You know what I mean? I'm really feeling that werewolf. Hey y'all, I am finishing The Dead Romantics, and I have been grappling with myself as to what I'm going to rate this because I'm honestly teetering between a 4 and a 5 star. Because as a read, it really entertained me and I read it so quickly and I really enjoyed pretty much every moment of this. But like, when I sit with it, I realize how much about this book I don't like. So I think I'm going to go with a safe bet and label it like a 4.25 and give it a nice 4 star. I mean, I could always change my rating and maybe want to reread it one day. It's very fun. It's very memorable. I feel like it also just like soothes my inner teenager, you know what I mean? Like, falling in love with a ghost is just one of those things as a teenager I just like thought was like the coolest thing. I think it's because I've always wanted to write a book about that, and so maybe whenever it actually like happened and I read a book about it, I just really respected it that much more and it like quelled my inner goth girl. I just don't know. But I'm gonna go with a 4 star for now. But let me sum up this book a little bit better for you because I don't know if I did such a great job in the beginning. But basically, Florence is a ghostwriter who falls in love with the ghost of her editor, basically. So Florence can't meet the deadline. The editor, aka Benji, our ghost, he's like, well, you have to meet the deadline, it's due tomorrow. And she goes home, she's very upset, she goes out partying, she ends up kissing him at a party, and then she gets a call from her mother letting her know the devastating news that her father has passed. And her father can also see ghosts, which is why I think it's really important to think about Florence and her father's relationship this entire book, because her and her father are so similar. They're the only ones in the family that share this gift, even though her younger sister Alice is the caretaker of like the funeral home. She's the undertaker, if you will, and she is the one who's like embalming bodies and all that stuff. And she does not have the gift. It's just Florence and her, you know, beloved father. On top of all that, we find out that her ex Lee decided to write a book that is now coming out this year about her life. Like, she basically told him that she could see ghosts and she played it off as like she was pretending to be a character, getting in her character's head, and he stole every single idea and put it in a book because she wasn't gonna do it. And he basically put her entire life story out there and he got a lot of it wrong. So she's really mad about that. But on top of that, like, she just doesn't believe in love anymore after, you know, he was such a little fuckboy, and their relationship ended a year ago. So now Florence goes back to her small hometown of Miramont, South Carolina, which is where she was basically bullied for solving a murder of a kid when she was 13 because she could see ghosts and didn't realize that the kid was a ghost, and she solved his murder. So she literally helped solve this murder. They found the body, and then her entire town basically made fun of her for, even though she helped with the murder investigation, which was like a little weird. But then again, I also understand that people seeing ghosts is kind of like a weird thing, especially in the South. I can understand that people might be a little wary about that, living in the South myself. Her dad left firm instructions in his will of what he wanted them to do for his funeral, and that's a big part of this book. Like, honestly, this book doesn't really have as much romance as I would prefer for it to be called a romance. This is a great book by itself, but like, I really don't know if I would look at it as a romance until like the very, very end, because I don't really understand why she kissed Benji in the very beginning, and then there's basically nothing until he shows up as a ghost at her doorstep in the small hometown, and he shows up like, at the funeral home, and she doesn't really understand why he's there, and they're just kind of like is like an instant sexual tension between them, even though he's a ghost, and like, that's fine, but like, I just don't understand like the relationship part of this until like the very end, and then it makes sense. So like, Benji's helping her through like her father's death and everything, which I think is like a really key part of this relationship happening, but I feel like the rest of the story overshadows that aspect because we have so many great side characters, and that's why you might think my comparison is weird, but honestly, this definitely reminded me of Schitt's Creek. Like, this has like Schitt's Creek vibe. Like, the comedic aspect of this really reminds me of Schitt's Creek. All the fun kooky characters, a really small town, everybody knows everybody, and then on top of that, it low-key has the Haunting of Hill House vibes. And I know that you again might disagree with me if you've read this book, but like, stick with me here. There are so many good aspects to this that remind me of that show, because there's like a family funeral at a family funeral home that's like owned by a family member, you know what I mean? And there's all these family dynamics going back to a small hometown, you know, where you're haunted by your past. We have deep grief. We have ghosts that look corporeal. I mean, there's a lot of things matching up with this, but like low-key, I just got the vibe. Like this is a very like macabre, sad, depressing, melancholic book in so many ways. And the grief was palpable. Like just reading her describe her father and how much she misses him just tore a hole in my heart. It ripped it right out, honestly. It was just so sad and beautiful to see the relationship that Florence had with her father and the things that she's going to remember when he passes. It's just, it was really hard to read. Like I honestly teared up so many fucking times throughout this book. It's like not even funny. Like I feel like I could get like 1 or 2 chapters in and I just kept, you know, tearing up over something else that was mentioned because it was just such a palpable feeling of grief. Like I really felt back to all the grief I've had in my life, and it just kept getting worse. And I think that Benji being a ghost completely added to this like desperation and sadness that I felt in the book, and, like the despair, because like she's falling in love with a ghost and she can't have him. He's, you know, he looks corporeal, but he's not. She can't touch him. You know, she's not that delusional. Like her hand goes right through him, and it just hurts so much. I think that's why this works as like a love story though, is just because like the yearning and the angst is there. Like, you know, you can't ever have this dude, yet you're just falling head over heels for this little fucking ghosty. But I do have a few issues with the book, namely the fact that Benji and Florence as main characters really didn't have main character energy. They weren't particularly memorable as themselves. I feel like Benji literally has nothing going for him. Like as a ghost dude, sure, like that aspect blends well to the book, but like his actual personality is just kind of like not there. He has a funny named cat. He's a workaholic and he's an editor, and I guess he's a hopeless romantic after he read a book one time. I don't really feel like those are like big character defining things, you know what I mean? I just kind of expect more. And our main character is just, you know, typically whiny, annoying ghostwriter who can't stick up for herself. I just feel like she didn't really have a whole lot going on. I think the best thing about her was she could see ghosts and shared that with her father. I feel like her as a character is incredibly weak, and everybody else in the story has so much more personality and like defining traits. I guess one of like the perks of that is that you can kind of superimpose yourself into the book as Florence or Benji. But overall, this is a perfect autumnal read. This definitely had like the dark autumn feeling, and I think it was autumn perhaps in the book as well, but like I really felt that autumnal feeling. So if you're looking for like a romance kind of gonna rip your heart out a little bit and it has a lot of ghosts and a sweet little hometown, I think this is definitely a win for you. It was definitely a win for me. I liked the ending. I feel like it was a little convenient, but I did like how everything worked out. I feel like everything was just like a little too perfect, and it was a lot happier of an ending than I was expecting after how sad the rest of the book was. And I'm gonna put up a spoiler for a second. There is something in the book I want to spoil, but like if you're not willing to be spoiled by that, that's fine. There's actually a couple of things. So number one, she's asked to ghostwrite for Ann Nichols. Turns out Ann Nichols died 5 years ago, and that's actually when she started ghostwriting for her, because Ann Nichols' ghost came back and asked her to like write for her like for you know how many years. Also, lo and behold, Ann Nichols is Benji's, I think, grandma. I can't remember now. I'm pretty sure he is her grandson. So there's that. I kind of liked how Anne came back as a ghost to ask her to ghostwrite, because it obviously seems like our main character has a hard time telling ghosts apart from regular people because they look so real to her in so many aspects. Also, at the very end, Benji comes back. So whenever he disappears from her a couple chapters before the end, it's because he came back to life. Like he was like in a weird comatose, half dead state or whatever. He died and then came back. I think that's really interesting because it does make sense why he was hearing weird noises and stuff throughout like his experience as a ghost. And I did like that, but it was so frustrating at the very end that like, you know, they're supposed to get together and they don't talk for like fucking months. Like after such a crazy experience, she goes to the hospital, punches her ex in the face, who also happened to show up, which was just weird. And then she ends up not going into the room because his fiance is there, or his like ex-fiance or like fiance that like just didn't work out with, whatever. I would have liked to see that resolved a little bit differently. I also would have like preferred that like she'd go to the hospital and they like talk it out and decide to like be together, or they have a disagreement and then come back together or something. But it was just weird that she like decided to leave the hospital and not even go in after like he spent all that time with his ghost, and then he found out he came back to life and this is like literally your dream man who is now alive and giving you a second chance. You guys don't talk for like 4 fucking months until you write another book and then you like talk to him. I never liked that. I don't know. Didn't love that ending. It also like freaked me out that they weren't going to get together. And I just feel like if you're going to call this a romance, I was expecting you guys to get together. And I just feel like it kind of tugged at my heart, but like not in a good way. I felt kind of like not cool about that. So perfect fall read, really enjoyed it. But now I'm on to Mating the Huntress. This is a novella about a werewolf and a werewolf huntress. So the werewolf realizes that she is his mate. And so he basically kind of like stalks her for like a month. And then she finally agrees to go on a date with him because she's going to kill him. Like she straight up is like, I'm gonna kill this bitch. I'm gonna like play along and I'm gonna kill him. And then she realizes through trying to kill him that like, I can't do this. I'm just so attracted to this guy. I don't know what's wrong with me. And also she realizes that he's more human than she thinks, because her and her family lost a lot of their like knowledge about werewolves a couple generations back. So they don't really know like a whole lot about them other than they're like killing machines, and that's what they think. So they don't think they have souls. They don't think they're like very humanoid. They're just out to kill werewolves, honestly. So she decides to go hunting by herself, and like she goes to his house and goes to kill him and just can't go through with it because she realizes that he's human. And on top of this, he knows that she is his fated mate because he smelled her scent once and he knew that she was the one. That was it. It's a whole thing. It's a really good book. I really enjoy it. I feel like for a novella, there's already like a whole lot of like lore in it, and I'm really excited to revisit this book. So I'll fill you guys in when I finish that, which should hopefully be in the next, I'm honestly like a day or two. It's a really quick read. I feel like it's like 100 and something pages, but I feel like it's even quicker than that. Like it's just, it reads in like probably like an hour or two if you really just sit down and read it. So I'm expecting to get that to you guys presently.
Got some lemons and there's plenty for you. Got some lemons and there's plenty for you.
So I ended up finishing Meg the Huntress, and upon reread, it is again another 5-star. I really enjoy this book. It is a really fun novella. It feels so much quicker than its actual length, and I think it's also just due in part to the fact that I really enjoy this book. I am still gonna be waiting for the frickin' sequel, Miss Talia Hibbert, but I will just have to keep rereading this every freaking spooky season. The sexual tension in here is just chef's kiss, and I just really enjoy the fact that like he knows that she is his mate, and she basically gives into those desires even though her family has a long line of hunting werewolves, because they also realize that they don't know enough about them to condemn them anymore. And I feel like there's so much good story and lore there that I'm dying for the sequel to come out so I can kind of delve into that. That is a missed opportunity, Miss Hibbert. I love this. It's always a fucking slap. I recommend it to everybody. It's one of those books that I think is just one of my like favorite spooky reads. It's just a really fun time, especially if you like paranormal romance. You just kind of can't go wrong with it. There's nothing to like dislike about it. My biggest dislike is it's not longer. I want to know more about the lore. I want to understand how werewolves work. I want to understand like the world that they live in. I want to understand there's more shapeshifters out there. Like I want more, and I'm waiting for it. So now that I finished Mating the Huntress, I am going to move on to the last book for this reading vlog, which is Not Your Crush's Cauldron. Now, this is the third book in the Supernatural Singles series, so each one follows a different sister, and this is, I believe, the youngest sister, Ollie. Her name is Olive. She is like a professor, I believe, and she's really good friends with a guardian angel. That's his job, and they move in together because she needs to basically find a new roommate. He offers her a room, and there's always been sexual tension between them. And to my understanding, as a guardian angel, he gets assignments, and he gets assigned Olive because she's gonna do something like dangerous. So his job is to like protect people from doing like bad things, and not just like bad things and like going out and like murdering people, but like maybe just like a bad decision or something that could like affect their future or other people's, is kind of what it sounds like. And he ends up getting like her file on his desk, and he doesn't really know what to do with it. And one of the rules is you're not supposed to fall in love with an assignment, and obviously they're gonna fall for each other. I'm not really sure what to expect, because from what I remember in the second book, which was Not Your Ex's Hexes, Olive and Bax like didn't really have anything going on between them at that moment in time. There was just kind of like a little bit of sexual tension. So I hope that they can actually like grow a romance from that. So I'm expecting good things out of this, because I did really enjoy the second book in this series that I read, and I gave it 4 stars. So I'm expecting this one to at least be another like 3 or 4 star book. I really like the writing style, and I like that each book follows a different sister, and they're like basically stuck with a different type of supernatural creature, because Olive's a witch, as are the other women in the family. They're all witches, but Rose, the second sister, ended up with a demon, which was the last book I read. And this one, he's a guardian angel. And I think the first book, which is the one I haven't read actually, that sister is with a werewolf to my understanding. Don't quote me on that. So I like that they're like showing different sides of this universe, and that's something that I really look for in stories, or especially continuation of stories. So I have high hopes for this one, and I'll let you guys know when I get about like probably halfway into it if something else like crazy happens, and give you guys my full thoughts. But I'm excited to finally finish up this reading vlog because it's been going on a lot longer than I anticipated. nothing to like the books. It's just been like a really busy month, and I feel like October is my favorite month to like make content, as is a lot of other booktubers. But for some reason, life just always gets extra busy around this time of year for me in general. I don't know if it's like my star sign and it's astrologically just like a mess. I don't know if it's just because this year it's eclipse season. I don't fucking know. It's just been busy as fuck, and I'm really behind. I already canceled like a couple different reading vlogs, so I'm just trying to finish out what I have going on so I can get you guys some content in October. So as soon as I get halfway into this bad bitch, I'll get back to you.
I swear there's something going on across the street. My neighbor's acting just a little too discreet. Yeah. He's taking trash out in the middle of the night. But when I see him in the day, he's so polite. Every morning he waves as I leave the door. But I see him buying bleach at the grocery store. Yeah. He's the founder of the whole neighborhood.
I hope y'all can see me because I'm not using any excess light and it's been very dreary outside, so I do apologize. But I'm 50% of the way into Not Your Crush's Cauldron, and so far I'm enjoying this. I think unfortunately it has the trope of friends to lovers, which is definitely one of my least favorite romance tropes, and I think it's also incredibly difficult to pull off. I think that's why so many people try to do enemies to lovers, because it's just so much more angst. I think that's what I'm lacking, is there's not really a whole lot of angst. It almost feels like they had a previous relationship, like sexually, and then became roommates. Because the thing that really bothers me the most is Bax constantly refers to Olive as Angel, even though he's the guardian angel. Like, his nickname for her is Angel, and I just find that like really weird. And he like touches her face, and like, if I had a male friend who called me Angel and touched my face, I would not move in with them if I was not interested in pursuing a relationship with that person. I mean, obviously Olive does like him. It just feels like really, it feels weird. It feels like we skipped steps. Like, we're told they're just friends, and there's always been like a little bit of tension between them, but like, I don't think I've actually ever had a male friend call me any kind of like pet name. Like, it has never happened. Like, I have had nicknames, but they're not like romantic or like baby names. You know what I mean? So it just feels really weird. It's kind of cringe. I'm having a hard time with like literally that, because he says it all the time. And he says it all the fucking time, and it's just weirding me out. Again, I'm also having a hard time with like the vibes. I just feel like they're friends, and then like their interests, and then like they could be lovers. I just feel like I'm having a hard time getting a feel for their relationship in general. I like the storyline of the fact that she is one of his like guardianship tasks, and he can't let her know. And obviously if they found out he was like fucking her, then he's gonna be like blacklisted and like thrown out of the angel thing. Like, I think he'd like lose his wings. So I like that there's like high stakes in that, but I'm just not really feeling like the high stakes in the relationship. It's very weird. Like, he's obviously very overprotective and stuff, and that's fine. I don't know. I can't really describe to you what the disconnect is. I'm just disconnecting. I'm disassociating. I don't understand what's going on here. I'm having a hard time grasping their relationship. And I think once they get together, it will be better. But right now with like this like buildup, it's just not really working for me. I think they're just like better probably in a couple, which is the opposite of what I say for a lot of people. But like, their pet names, the touching, the closeness, like, it's not normal friend behavior. And I think that's my big problem, is like, they are obviously still friends. It's not like they're even like dating. So just, the vibe is weird. I don't understand it. They obviously have feelings for each other, but like, I don't know. It's just giving me the vibes, and we've all done it, where you like hooked up with a friend, and then the next day you're like, that was a drunken mistake. And that's more of like the feeling I'm getting from this entire relationship. And it's bringing me back to some bad times, I gotta tell you. So after the 50% mark, I'm sure that they're gonna get together, and this might get a lot better. But like right now, them being separated and him being like overprotective and like jumping on her throat, it's just not working for me. So she's a professor, and she's making all of the students make a list of like things that like push them outside of their comfort zones, but like they have to like accomplish these things. So obviously it could be like uncomfortable for them, or push themselves out of their own comfort zone. So it's not like there's no like general standard for things that like would be out of their comfort zone, but they have to make their own list and accomplish it. And so she decides to do it herself, because she's like, that's only fair. So she has a pretty long list. I think it's like 8 or 9 things of things that she wants to accomplish that are scary for her or uncomfortable. And Bax like throws himself into this list, which again, fine, but he's trying to do it, and also like he's supposed to be watching her away. Like, his job is to be her guardian, and I think that she might be doing something dangerous from this list. I don't really know. That's the only thing I don't understand about his old guardian angel thing, is like how that really fucking works. Like, I don't understand the aspect of it yet either. Like, is it just so she doesn't do something stupid? Is it just so she doesn't like break her neck doing this like aerial circus thing? I don't understand. But he basically inputs himself into her life and is like, oh, I'm gonna help you with all this. And I think there's obviously the ulterior motive of like, I just want to be with you. And secondly, this is my job. So I don't know. That's pretty much like the whole of it at the moment. And there's a really fun friend named Harper who's a succubus who is just overly sexual and is like pushing them together. I enjoy her a lot. But in terms of their relationship, it's not that I don't like Bax. I really do. I just don't understand their dynamic, and I'm having a really hard time coming to grips with how they're acting because there really isn't any angst in this, which is something I think I like. I think I do like some angst. I think that's why Enemies to Lovers is so popular. I'm not really getting that friends to lovers pining either. Like, I just feel like they both like each other, but they're both not really making a move. And then when they make a move, I'm just like, God, that's kind of uncomfortable. I don't know. It feels like she's like dating her brother. Like, I don't really understand like the vibes. I'm not feeling it. So I'm gonna finish this book and then let y'all know what's up. But so far, it's not vibing. But like, I like it. It's just very confusing. I'm confused. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's this weird ass day. But yeah, I'd like to finish this in the next day or two. So I'll give y'all an update when I finish it. And hopefully this ends better. I am a bit concerned because I tend to like the beginnings of books and not the ending. So if I'm not loving the beginning, I'm terrified about what's going to happen at the ending. Anyway, bye. I would just like a minute to complain about Starbucks because I decided to try their like oat milk gingerbread chai, and I subbed out the oat milk for whole milk because I absolutely hate oat milk. I'm probably one of the only millennials that does, but it always leaves like an acrid aftertaste in my mouth. So I'm assuming it's because of all the glyphosate on oats or something. I don't fucking know. I don't like oat milk. But girl, this is the milkiest ass fucking drink I've ever goddamn seen. But I really wanted to try it because it sounded good. Because I wanted to get this little gingerbread ass loaf that I haven't had in like probably 2 years. Like, I don't always get their snacks, but I was really feeling the gingerbread loaf. But I'm just gonna complain about Starbucks. So thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I just got done shopping at Trader Joe's, and I literally complained last week that the bathrooms do not have like a little, like the foot pull where you can like pull the door with your foot instead of touching the door with your hands, because they don't have towels. And I just, the handle always just feels really gross, and your hands aren't usually dried. It's just like unsanitary, you know? I literally complained last week to some guy in the hallway. This week they are on the doors, and I went to my favorite worker at Trader Joe's and I was like, dude, did you see what they finally did to the bathrooms? Because we always talked about it. And apparently what happened was I complained to the head honcho of this Trader Joe's and had no idea that's who it was, and he ordered them that very day and put them on the doors. I just feel like I enacted change. That sounds so dumb, but like, it really feels good to, number one, be heard, and number two, have the change enacted. Like, that completely just made my fucking day. And it's nice because now it's gonna like make me feel better every time I go into my Trader Joe's and see that like I did something, like I said something to somebody and they did it. Like, it just feels so good. I feel like I can just tackle climate change. I can change the world. This one little change is just gonna change everything, I'm telling you. Anyway, that was my fun story for the day, but I'm very, very proud of myself. Number one, for saying something, but I guess to the right person. So I'm just so happy. That's the message. All right, y'all, it is later on in the day and I ended up getting a second beverage because the first one was absolute fucking garbage. And apparently, I don't know why they call it the gingerbread oat milk chai, but there is no gingerbread syrup in there. And I saw that when I was ordering it and I was like, maybe I'm just like crazy, but no, it just tasted like the world's most watered down fucking chai I've ever had. And it was just like not good. It was so milky and there was like barely any ice, and yeah, it just wasn't good. So I threw it out when there was like 3/4 of it left, and I went back to Starbucks on my way home and got something I knew was good, which is the chestnut praline latte. For any of my drinks, I always get whole milk, and then I usually get half calf. As half calf, or in the afternoon I get decaf, depending if I've already had a coffee in the day. So there's my hot little tidbit, but this is way fucking better. And I'm probably just gonna hold it just because it's very soothing. So I ended up finishing Not Your Crush's Cauldron, and there was a lot of things I really liked about this book, and there was a lot of things I didn't like about this book. My complaint about Bax calling Olive Angel still stands. It's definitely my biggest ick of the novel. It just never really made sense, especially because he's the actual angel, and I'm sure that people have like said that to him like in a nasty way. And also it was used in the book that like people referred to him as Angel. So I think that was kind of like a confusing aspect of the book as well, because you kind of didn't know who they were talking to unless you like made sure who was talking, because he is the actual angel. And he gave her the nickname Angel before they were ever like a thing. And again, I just think it's weird to give someone somebody a nickname. Even if you like them and they don't know it, it's weird to give them like such a pet nickname unless like they are okay with it. I don't know. The only people I've ever allowed to give me like a pet name are like middle-aged women, and I love those nicknames from them, like baby girl. It works so hard for me. I love it. But it's only from a very specific type of person that I will allow it. And obviously, like, I have to be very close to that person. Him calling her Angel was just fucking weird. I have to say it. It was weird and I didn't like it. I didn't fucking like it at all. It gave off like All Roads Lead Here vibes, where in that book, he kept calling her Buddy. And you don't find out till the end it's because she reminds him of Buddy the Elf, which is just like the most atrocious thing I've ever heard for like a sexy nickname for the love of your life. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work for me. Nicknames in general have to be very specific or like funny and like happen to me in the context of that book. Now, perhaps in the first book, that's when the nickname became a thing, because I have not read the first book in the series. I've only read the second and third novels. So that could be where it originated, but still don't like it. Even though we didn't get to see like a whole lot of magic in the second one, we had a lot more like magical events in my opinion, because in the second novel, they have like a half demon and a witch, and the half demon basically like, couldn't fall in love or he'd like lose his soul. And she was like the witch who was supposed to be like their god all be all primo witch, and she stepped down to like do other things. And she did like use her magic quite a bit. So like it felt magical. This book was just lacking the magic. I mean, Bax has wings that can fly, but other than that, all he seems to have is like heightened senses. Is that all it takes to be a guardian angel? Is that all it takes? And Olive didn't seem to use her magic like at all. I mean, like when she got like overly emotional or like upset about something, it would like brim at her fingertips, but like never fucking did anything except for like shove somebody out of the way. I just feel like the magic in this was not the forefront, which is what I was expecting. And on top of that, this is like the third and last installment of this series. Now, they technically could do a fourth one with Harper, who is their sex demon friend. And I would love to see this succubus get her happily ever after, because she's just like about love, and I respect that. So I want to see her fall head over heels and eat her words. But I don't know if they're going to continue on and make a fourth novel in this, because she's technically not one of the triplets. Also, I forgot to mention that Olive is a triplet. So like each one of the sisters, they're not like just sisters, they're triplets. And I believe like Vi is the oldest, Rose is the second oldest, and Olive is the third oldest, but that's just my understanding. I could be wrong. And Harper is just like their succubus friend. So I would really like to see stuff continue on in the fourth novel, but I'm just very upset with how the magic system just really wasn't explained in this. And I really don't understand why Bax was assigned to her as her guardian angel and he couldn't tell her, which is part of the rules, which I respect. But why was he assigned to her in the first place? Her docket, like her dare docket, was like things that pushed her out of her comfort zone. And she made all her other students do this dare I docket, and then she did it herself. You know, and everybody's comfort levels are different. Like she was telling a student like, oh, like if you getting on the subway every day is like pushing you out of your comfort zone, then put that on the list. That's something you can accomplish. That is you going out of your comfort zone. And things on her list really weren't that bad. Like nothing was like super dangerous or like she was trying to like steal an artifact or something. So I just feel like it was really weird that a guardian angel was assigned to her in the first place. Because what is his job? You're there to like accompany people while they're having fun and just make sure that they don't like injure themselves. Like, I don't understand how his job works. It just felt like a really, really weak plot point, and it just did not work for me. Now, I love their relationship. I love the romance. They work together as a couple, but the first 50% where they're like not a thing, it just felt really fucking weird. Like, I think it was also just like the nickname, they felt really close. There was no angst or pining or tension. It just like went straight into like weird sexual innuendos. And then like when Olive would get all like flirty with him, he would get flustered, even though he's been like this flirty, man-hoary badass kind of vibe the whole rest of the novels I've read. So I just don't understand that either. Like the character development was like a little weird, but it was nice when they were finally together because they do feel like a couple. And it's one of the rare instances where like I prefer them as a couple. Like them being separate just did not make sense. It did not give out the vibes. It was weird. I needed them to be together because it was weird with them being apart. And the sex scenes were hot. He is pierced down there, and that was a really interesting thing I've never read in a book before. And I liked it. It was very sexy, and their sex times together were delicious, but I just did not love the ending either. Like, this book overall was just, like, not my favorite of the series. I don't think it's particularly a super strong series for me anyway. Like, it's not something I would necessarily go to if you're looking for, like, a witchy vibe. It feels like something you could read all year, which is good. It doesn't really have, like, the witchy magic vibe I was going for. And my biggest gripe with her books in general, and especially this book, is that important events are like skimmed over. Like there's like a dancing contest and we don't really like get to see it. Like we get to see bits and pieces, but like I'd rather see the whole thing. And I feel like that's a really important like plot development. Including at the end, there is a ceremony for her sister to become the prima witch. And like we're not really told anything about the ceremony other than like she has to like run around the room 3 times. I would like some explanation. This is your magic system. This is your world. This is the magic system of witches. And I really want to understand how it works. And like we were just given absolutely nothing. And it just felt like the author didn't know her own systems. I want to understand how it works. It was really frustrating. Like the time jumps in here were really fucking frustrating. Like I just really wanted to see some of the magic play out, but the romance was done well. So it's kind of a toss up. So I'm gonna give it a 3. Like I liked it. I enjoyed it. I definitely had a lot of gripes with this. I had a lot of frustrations and it's just upsetting because the thing I love most in books is fucking world building. And especially when I'm interested in your world, you already have my attention. So just give me what I want. And the romance was delicious, but I just wanted to know more about how they work, especially because each one has a different like love interest of a different type of supernatural. Like that is such a cool opportunity to show us more about their world. Guardian angels sound like their only job is like guarding people, but like from what? It's just weird. I mean, I like the ending. I like the resolution. There's a lot of really cool stuff in between. There's like a lot of nice moments between them, including like tattoos and all that stuff. But I mean, overall with like the world building and the magic, it just left a lot to be desired. And I don't know if they just like missed some stuff and it needed to be cleaned up. I mean, obviously I have an arc. This is an arc. Like this is not out for publication until next year. So like maybe they're going to take this into consideration and fix a lot of that. But I want to see the fucking ceremony. I want to see Vi become the prima witch she's supposed to be. Maybe Rose is the oldest. I don't remember. Anyway, listen, I really enjoyed these books. I really like this author. I would definitely read more from her. I really want to pick up the first book, which I know is at my library, so I probably will eventually because I don't think I need to read it around Halloween time, but it's just kind of like a fun thing to read around Halloween time, especially because the first one has a werewolf in it, and I love me some werewolves. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. But thank you so much for sticking around for this reading vlog. I know it is coming out a lot later than expected, but I also finished this book later than expected, and it's just been kind of a really busy season. It's been a busy year. We all give the same excuses. I just feel like my life isn't always built very well for doing this kind of thing, especially with like a corporate job. It just doesn't really work as well as you think from someone working at home that I could like do more stuff with it or have more time for reading. But I recently switched jobs, which I think is like a big part of like why it's been harder for me to focus on reading as well, because I'm just kind of like mentally exhausted at the end of the day from trying to learn all this new information. So bear with me until I get on my feet a little bit more. I also feel like there's like changes coming in the air, y'all. I feel the changes coming. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I feel like my channel might change. And I don't mean that in a really weird way. I just mean like I might have more time. I might have less time. I really don't know. I see a lot of stuff happening potentially in the next couple months to the next year, and I might just like change how I do my channel. So I don't know. I'll let y'all know when it happens. Thank y'all for sticking around and have a lovely fall season.